Ladies and gentlemen, we request that you draw your attention to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, while you continue to enjoy dinner, please direct your attention to the stage and welcome the 2023 Ball for the Mall co-chairs, Georgette Gigi Dixon, Wells Fargo Head of External Affairs and Secretary of the Trust for the National Mall Board of Directors, and Nels Olson, Vice Chair of Korn Ferry and member of the Trust for the National Mall Board of Directors. Welcome.
Good evening. Oh, what a beautiful evening. I thought I could get your attention. Good evening, everyone. And it is a beautiful evening in the opera world. And Denise, I can't touch Denise Graves. She's here tonight. But in the opera world, we call this a bella notte. It's a beautiful evening. And we welcome everyone this evening. First, I want to thank my friend, Hill Harper. Hill Harper joined us tonight. Isn't he fantastic? And I think he's just a pretty fantastic MC. What do you all think? Somehow, I don't know how he did it, but Hill managed to squeeze us in between a very busy filming schedule, giving back to the community, promoting his best-selling books, and being father to his cute son, Pierce, who's 7 years old. You heard Hill talk about Pierce earlier. I've had the pleasure of meeting Pierce. Lots of personality, like his dad. Hill, we're grateful for your support for the National Mall.
Thanks, Gigi. We are so honored to be this year's co-chairs of the Ball for the Mall, and so honored to work with this host committee. This is truly the event of the season here on the National Mall, and we really appreciate all your generous support for the Trust for the National Mall, and we'd like to thank the members of our host committee. Could you please stand and give us a quick wave? Tonight's success is an amazing success. It's possible only because of your hard work and your generosity, so thank you again so much.
Well said, Nels. And thank you to every single person in the tent tonight for your support of the National Mall. And get ready, Ball for the Mall will be back May 2024. We hope to see you there.
All right, are we going this way?
I think so.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Ball for the Mall MC, Hill Harper.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Gigi. It's great to see you, and thank you for all that you do for the mall. We love you, I love you, and you're amazing. We will now present the Trust for the National Mall's 2022 History Heroes and Hope Awards. And I think that's, is it the, did we present it last year, so we're presenting the 2022 again? It's the 2023 History Heroes and Hope Awards, honoring some individuals whose leadership has made an extraordinary impact on the National Mall and who's also embody the ideals behind the National Mall, like unity, democracy, and freedom. Honorees of these awards have been presented since 2014 and include many leaders and advocates such as Secretary of the Smithsonian Lonnie Bunch, humanitarian and chef Jose Andres, artists and activists like my friends Jean-Baptiste and Suleika Jouad, as well as a number of individuals who are here with us tonight. Trust for the National Mall founder and chair emeritus John Chip Ockridge, Senator Lisa Murkowski, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, and who accepted on behalf of her late husband, Congressman John Dingell. And very importantly, and this is where we start to get quiet, very pleased to introduce one of those past honorees. Mrs. Kessler told me that I should go sit in Bruce Broussard's seat and try to recruit him to be my mentor. I asked him about it backstage. He said, absolutely not. So it's okay. He is co-founder and co-chairman of the Carlyle Group, one of the world's largest and most successful private investment firms. Beyond that, he's a dedicated philanthropist to many important causes with particular interest in American history and historical sites. His patriotic philanthropy to America's greatest monuments, memorials, and historical artifacts is remarkable, including the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, and the African American Museum of History and Culture, all of which are on the National Mall, the very place that we're honoring tonight. David is also one of the lead funders of the new Lincoln Undercroft project that will create a new immersive museum underneath the Lincoln Memorial. David was the lead funder of the restoration of the Washington Monument after it was damaged by the 2011 earthquake. And David just launched a new series on PBS entitled Iconic America, exploring historical and cultural symbols in America and what they mean and how they connect us all. And if that wasn't enough, here to share remarks and to present the History Heroes and Hope Awards, please welcome my mentor, David Rubenstein.
Thank you. How many people are here tonight for this dinner for the first time? Any? Oh, wow. How many people have been here for 5 years? How many people 10 years? Anybody for 15 years? All of them? Wow. Okay. So how many people are worried about 2026? Anybody worried about 2026? Okay. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about whether I can live long enough to get to 2026. So everybody is raising money for things 2026. I'm just hoping to be around to see it. But anybody else share that concern? No. Okay. So to be very serious, just a couple points and I'll get off the stage. Why should you care about the National Mall? There's so many things to worry about. Everybody in this room is reasonably prosperous or you wouldn't be here. And all of you have probably done pretty well in life. Many of you probably do not come from people that were in this country in 1776. How many of you come from people who were here in 1776? Voluntarily here. Okay, very few. So why should those, in 1776, my ancestors were in a shtetl in Ukraine somewhere. And why am I not worried more about what's going on in Ukraine than here? Well, like all of you, I'm an American. And while my forebears weren't here in 1776, I've grown up as an American and take great pride in what the country has achieved, despite the fact that we've had a lot of challenges. There's no doubt about it. And we can't whitewash it. But I do think there's a couple reasons why I'd like you to think about the mall after you leave here tonight. First, there are very few things that bring our country together like the National Mall. You know, Washington is bitterly divided, but Washington is bitterly divided because the country is bitterly divided. Congress really represents the country. And the country is bitterly divided down the middle. There are red states, blue states, and so forth. There aren't that many purple states. And the country is divided now, and not as bad as it was in the Civil War. That was a different situation. But the country has real divisions. But there's no divisions that I can see about the National Mall. Just like it was said about Sara Lee, nobody doesn't like Sara Lee. Nobody doesn't like the National Mall. Everybody likes the National Mall. So there are very few things that can unite us. There are very few things that can unite us in this country. Very few. But why should we care about the National Mall? Why should we make it look better? Well, how many of you people here have ever entertained somebody at your house? Anybody ever had any guests at your house? And when your guests are coming over, do you say, let me leave it the way it was before and don't clean up anything, they'll just see the way I really live? Is that what you do? No. You go around and you make sure it's perfect, it looks good. Why? Because you want to make a good impression. You want people to think better of you because your house is neater than it normally is, right? Well, we're going to have tens of millions of people visiting this country from abroad, plus the people who live in this country are going to be visiting Washington in 2026. And what we want to do is put our best foot forward and make a good impression. Why? Because we want people to think good things about this country. Again, it's not a perfect country, but it's a country that is better than any other country. Think about this. In the entire world, let's say there are roughly 200 countries in the world, roughly 200 countries. What country has the most immigrants? What country has more people coming here than any other country? United States. There are 50 million people who've come to this country as immigrants. Any of you in this audience immigrants in this country? Okay. So you've come here because presumably you believe this is a country that has things we should be proud of. We're not perfect, as I said, but there is no other country in the world that people want to go to as much. The second biggest country in the world with immigrants going to it is Germany. 5 million people. We have 50 million immigrants, 5 million. And so we have 10 times as many people have come to this country, have gone to any other country in the world. And the people come here is because you can pursue your religion, you have a chance to rise up, and people who don't live in this country and aren't born here believe in the American dream in ways that many times people in this country who are born here don't. The American dream is what all of us have benefited from, probably, because very few of us were born extremely wealthy, I assume. You worked hard, you did something that made yourself able to rise up and be able to afford to come to a dinner like this and contribute. So I'd like you all to think about when you go home tonight, what more can you do for your country than you're already doing? Everybody can do a little bit more. Well, there's one thing you might be able to consider doing, which is do a little bit more for the mall, because you want everybody who visits this mall in 2026 to say, hey, this is a pretty good country. Look how they're able to make this place work. We can learn more about the country. And why do we want people to learn more about the country by the mall? And why do we want to make the mall look better? Well, let me just conclude with this. The human brain is an incredible device. When humans came out of caves as Homo sapiens 400,000 years ago, with an average life expectancy of 20, what do you think the lions and the tigers and the elephants that were looking at the humans said, oh, these people are going to conquer the earth because they're so much faster, bigger, taller than we are? No. They looked at us and probably just laughed, said, these people won't survive. But how did the humans get to where we are? Because the human brain is an incredible device. Nothing else has ever been created by God like the human brain. But the human brain has its flaws. One of its main flaws, of course, is if I see somebody who doesn't look like me, I'm not as happy. And we know that that prejudice goes on throughout the world, and we've seen it in this country as well. But one of the things that the human brain has not yet done, that maybe it will in 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years, is this. When you look at something on a computer slide, and you push a button, you go to the next thing, and you push a button, you go to the next thing, it's not the same as seeing something in person. Why not let the Washington Monument crumble? We know what it looks like when it was built. Why do we need to keep it? Why do we need to keep the mall looking good? Why do we need to keep the Lincoln Memorial looking good? Because you could look on a computer slide and see what Lincoln Memorial looked like, but by seeing something in person, you actually learn much more. The human brain is still able to get a better experience, because when you know you're going to come to the mall, you're going to see the Lincoln Memorial or the Jefferson Memorial, the Washington Monument, or any of the Smithsonian museums, you're likely to prepare. If you have children, you're going to get them to read a little bit before, tell them about it before. When they get here, they're going to have a curator. They're going to learn more about it. When they go home, they're more likely to read about it. And why is that important? Because we have a lack of civic education in this country. People know so little about our history. And the theory behind this country, look, this country was an experiment. It was laughed at by people around the world. You're going to create a representative democracy, and you're going to let people vote? That was crazy. Now, everybody couldn't vote. We know women weren't allowed to vote, and obviously African Americans weren't allowed to vote, and Jews weren't allowed to vote. Only a limited number of people voted. And actually, when you think about it, there are only a couple 100,000 people who were allowed to participate in government in 1776. But out of those people, we got George Washington, we got John Jay, we got Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton. Now we have 330 million people. Where are the George Washingtons? Well, they're in private equity. That's my theory. But to be very serious, what you want to do is you want people, the theory behind representative democracy is you have an informed citizenry. And if you don't have an informed citizenry, you're not going to have a very good representative democracy. So what we want to do is to have people learn more about our history, be more educated, be able to vote very intelligently, and be able to speak intelligently about what this country's about. So when the mall is in perfect shape, as we hope it will be in 2026, with the help of all of you, maybe our children, our grandchildren, and people from all over the world will come here and say, now I know more about why America is so great. Now I've really learned it. I didn't just see it on a computer slide. I've seen how wonderful this place is. I really understand why America is the greatest country in the world. So I hope all of you will think about what you might be able to do a little bit more than you've already done about contributing to make the mall a better place and contributing to this country in many other ways as well. So thank you all for what you've done, and please think about this as you go home tonight. Think about what more you can do to help this country. Thank you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, I promised to get you out of here soon. So, thank you very much. I have two other announcements. I'd like to give two awards out. They're History, Hope, and a History Heroes and Hope Award. So let me mention the first one. You heard earlier that, and some of you, I didn't know this. I can't honestly say I didn't know it either. In 1988, Ronald Reagan and Helmut Kohl went south of the ellipse, and they dedicated a garden in German-American friendship, which has gone back for 300 years. For 300 years, we've had a friendship with the German people. And Helmut Kohl and Ronald Reagan dedicated this garden and as a symbol of the friendship. But from 1988 to now, it kind of was getting a little worn out. So we wanted to refurbish it, and the Trust for the National Mall took the lead in doing that. And it worked with the German ambassador. The German ambassador, Emily Haber, is a civil servant, a foreign service officer, who has served in many different ways in her countries, to honor her country. And she came here in 2018 as the ambassador. And I don't think people realize that she would be one of the great ambassadors that Germany has sent to this country. And when she was alerted to this project, she said, I'll pitch in and I'll help you raise the money. I'll make sure there's corporate support. I'll make sure my government supports it. And as a result of that, we've been able to rededicate and refurbish the German-American garden. And I really want to thank her for her effort and ask her if she would come up here. Emily Haber.
Catherine Townsend, Jeffrey Reinbold, honored co-awardee Sheila Johnson, David Rubenstein, friends of the mall. First of all, thank you, David Rubenstein, for your kind words of introduction. Fabulous speech. And can I say, I consider this award a great honor, a highlight and a privilege as I approach the end of my tenure here in Washington. And I accept this honor with great gratitude, with humility, and on behalf of my colleagues in the embassy who have dedicated a great deal of energy and passion to the renovation of the German-American Friendship Garden over the years. Now, it wasn't the trust that alerted me to the state of the garden. I became aware of the garden early on, because shortly after my arrival on a stroll along the mall, together with my husband, we were surprised to see something that seemed to be rather neglected in spite of its prime location, right between the White House and the Washington Monument, and with nothing much in between. I had not been aware of it whatsoever. And then we spotted former Chancellor Helmut Kohl's name on the information panel. And upon research, I found out what you just told the audience, and that is that both President Reagan and Chancellor Kohl had dedicated this plot of land to commemorate German immigration as a contribution to the polity of the United States. But I'm also sure they did it in a forward-looking spirit. As Audrey Hepburn put it, to plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Well, the shape of the garden, the shape in which the garden was, did not really indicate a belief in a stable tomorrow. I panicked. After all, I'm a diplomat, always hypersensitive to what journalists may make of whatever comes their way. You know, like German-American relations in the dire need of a healthy dose of weed killer, or whatever they can think up. You get the idea. So I decided that the embassy needed to act before the press corps descended on the garden. I then learned that there had been previous efforts to rejuvenate it, but they had failed. And then, as you said, the trust of the National Mall stepped in with full force. And I cannot begin to describe how grateful I am for the vision, the determination, and the dedication of everyone in the trust as we all embarked on clearing the hurdles, bureaucratic and otherwise, ahead of the real gardeners to enable them to get down to the grassroots, quite literally, as it were. Working with Teresa Durkins and Stephen Sanders in particular was a joy, pure and simple. And let me also use this moment to thank those who contributed to the restoration of the garden, particularly the Trust's corporate partners, which will be displayed on both sides on the screen. Volkswagen Group of America, Anna Schneider, thank you for having taken the lead on this. Siemens, Barbara Hampton, Bayer, BMW, and all the others that make up this impressive list. And the good news is that the group of supporters keeps growing, again, quite literally. Just yesterday, the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America planted over 1,000 new perennials. Thank you so much for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot resist a metaphor here. Just like a garden, friendship needs regular care and devotion, and successes. When I arrived in Washington, some questioned the viability and the strength of our transatlantic relationship. But since then, the global crisis we had to weather together confirmed us in our faith in the importance of our alliance. Two crises stand out, both of them without precedent in recent times. And in both cases, the transatlantic relationship proved pivotal. During the COVID pandemic, the cooperation of the German BioNTech and American Pfizer led to the development of the first test and the first effective vaccine to be mass-produced. This partnership was decisive in helping us to overcome the pandemic. The other crisis, of course, is the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Ukraine's struggle for freedom will prevail as we remain united in our resolve and determination to support this nation. And we are deeply aware that US leadership is crucial in this endeavor, as is cooperation between the US and its closest partners, among them Germany. As President Kennedy put it in his inaugural address over there at the Capitol, united, there's little we cannot do. Divided, there's little we can do. And speaking of inaugurations, the inauguration of every president is celebrated here on the National Mall. This act of peaceful transition of power from one elected administration to the next represents the essence of US democracy. Beyond these moments of transition, the serenity of the mall, with its gardens and reflecting pools, send a message of its own. It is the message of the strength of American democracy, its institutions with the three branches of democratic government grouped around this iconic American space. Its artistic and innovative genius as symbolized by the National Gallery or the Air and Space Museum. Its readiness to deal with the past as represented by the African American Museum and the Museum of the American Indians. The reinvention of democracy in the modern age as documented in the National Archives. So the mall represents, for me, what continues to make the US a beacon in the world. And I'm proud to see and to share with you that the German-American Friendship Garden is a small, but at least topographically quite central part of this very powerful array of symbols. With this, let me come back to the beginning of my remarks. It is spring, and we see the restored German-American Friendship Garden blossoming. Blossoming. I'm convinced that the same can be said about the strength and endurance of our bilateral relationship. Let us work together to make sure that it remains that way. Thank you.
Okay. So we have one more award that I'd like to present, and let me introduce the person who's the recipient of it. And let me just begin by saying that it must have been about 35, 37, 38 years ago when my oldest daughter was in pre-K. And it's a pre-K school in Washington, D.C., and they wanted to have a capital campaign. Now, you probably say, you know, you've heard of universities having capital campaigns and high schools, but had you ever heard of a pre-K school having a capital campaign? So I was asked to be one of the co-chairs of the capital campaign for a pre-K school. And they said, you don't have to do much work because we have a really good, frankly, a better person to be the other co-chair. And who is that? It was Sheila Johnson. And so we met, and we raised our total. I think it was $100,000 or something like that. And I said, what do you do? And she said, well, I'm starting a television network, cable TV network. Okay. And she asked me what I did. And I said, I'm starting a private equity firm. And she said, okay. And I think both of us thought neither of us would get very far. But she proved me wrong, and she built an incredible company that became, I think, the largest, most profitable minority-owned company in the United States. But after she sold that, she said, I'm not going to rest on that. I'm going to do it again. So she started another company called Salamander. Some of you are familiar with it. One of the leading minority-owned hospitality companies in the United States. And as you may know, she recently purchased a company, a hotel here, used to be known as the Mandarin Oriental. Now it's known as the Salamander. And how many people have been to Middleburg? Anybody been to Middleburg? Okay. All right. So she thought of that, she financed it, she built it, and now it's one of the great resorts in the United States. So in addition to that, in her spare time, she has, in addition to the building Salamander, she has also become an owner of the Washington Wizards and Washington Cats, and is the president of the Washington Mystics, okay? But in her spare time, she has helped one of her daughters, or her daughter, become a very accomplished equestrian, which is a very inexpensive sport. Any of you know this? People who do it are Bill Gates' daughter is in it. Mike Bloomberg's daughter is in it. Bruce Springsteen's daughter is in it, and Sheila Johnson's daughter was in it. Very inexpensive sport, but she had a love for horses, and she recognized the importance to the mall of having a decent, respectable stables for the U.S. Park Police horses. And so she helped make certain that that was built and is done, and is open. And as a result of that, we now have terrific stables on the mall, and it wouldn't have happened without Sheila Johnson. So Sheila, please come on up.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage WNBA champion, U.S. Olympic women's basketball gold medalist, and two-time WNBA All-Star player Ariel Atkins from the Washington Mystics to share a tribute.
Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be here to congratulate Sheila Johnson on this incredible honor. We at the Mystics are proud and inspired by Sheila's extraordinary support and commitment to the National Mall, a place we all treasure.
Well, good evening, everyone. Boy, what a night this is. And as you know, I love classical music. And as I pondered over what I was going to say tonight, the final movement of Aaron Copland's The Tender Lamb was playing in the background. It's a stirring piece of Americana titled The Promise of Living. The Promise of Living, deeply romantic, because it captures an America still young and full of promise. An America of open prairies, blue skies, and endless horizons. And as I listened, I thought of where we'd be tonight, here on the Mall in our nation's capital, America's front yard. This place represents the epicenter of all that's great about America. Now think about it. Here we are on this patch of green, an open space in the heart of one of the most beautiful and bustling cities in the world. At one end, we have the words of arguably the most important American who ever lived, Abraham Lincoln, etched in marble and hollowed around a statue of the man himself. In the middle and staring straight ahead, we're looking at another great American's monument, and that's the Washington Monument. And then bookending on the other side, the Capitol Dome, under which everything so many have fought and died for, and everything our founding fathers dreamed of, which gets put into practice day after day in citizens representing the broadest cross-sections of thoughts, ideas, backgrounds, and beliefs ever imagined. And in between it all, a park. But not just any park, it's our national park. Ken Burns once called our national park America's greatest idea, and he was so right. And last Sunday, as I sat there listening to Copland, I thought of our national parks, even as the emotions took hold. But more to the point, I thought of this national park, America's front yard, This little sliver of hope and beauty that sits ever so proudly in the very heart of this powerful, unforgiving, and at times maddening city. I thought too about the incredible history that's been made here on this very mall. History, good and bad, history that, for better or for worse, has defined us as people. But I also thought about the magnificent animals we celebrate here tonight. Animals without whom none of this wonderfully noble idea would have ever been fully recognized. Now, as someone who owns and lives on a working horse farm, I know I'm not the most objective person when it comes to the subject. But for my money, horses are as important to America's history as any living creature, including man. Now, I want you to think about this. Horses carried the pioneers west, and over 200 years they helped us fight our wars, carve our trails, and forge our fields. They were instrumental in helping us grow, harvest, and deliver the very food we needed to keep the dream we had alive. They helped us deliver messages, materials, and munitions we needed most, and we couldn't have done any of it without them. Horses helped us fight our fires, transport our sick, and build the very infrastructure, the backbone upon which this country was built. And countless gave their lives in the process. In short, horses made America possible, and without them, there's no doubt that today, this would be far less of a substantial place. So for me to help this vision behind these stables become a reality and to celebrate the selfless and soulful animals who will live in them, every one of them who has been given a second chance in life. Now, a few acknowledgments before we get back to socializing. First, I'd like to thank, of course, our First Lady, Joe Biden, for joining us tonight. This has meant everything. And I want to congratulate my fellow honoree, Her Excellency Emily Haber, Ambassador of Germany to the United States for the restoration of the German-American Friendship Garden on the National Mall. Next, I'd like to thank all the directors of the Trust for the National Mall, but in particular, the retiring Chip Ackreach. Chip, what can I say? You did yeoman's work, my friend, and I can't speak about you without mentioning your backbone and most beautiful woman in the world, Sally Ackreach. Stand up. Both of you are champions of this monumental effort. Now, Chip, all you have to do is look around and realize that your legacy is secure and that your time at the head of our board table has anything but wasted. And along those lines, I'd like to welcome our new chair, Bruce Broussard, and wish Bruce the best of luck, even as I gently shied him about the size of the shoes he's going to be filling. Thanks as well to Catherine Townsend and her team, and to Teresa Durkin, whose spirit and fire always seemed to make sure that things big and small got done along the way. And I'd like to acknowledge, too, the remarkable Tassos Kokoris, our architect for the stables, for your incredible vision of the Park Police Horse Stable, which is environmentally sustainable. And finally, I'd like to say this. As both a businesswoman and a proud resident of the single most government-focused community on earth, what this project proved and what we celebrate tonight is what's possible when the government and the business community walk arm in arm towards a common goal. Now, I need everyone to give a tremendous bow to Gigi Dixon, for pushing us over the finish line. Wells Fargo, thank you. And to all the donors, thank you for the contribution to this project, especially those joining us here tonight. Sashiko Kuno, Philanthropic Endowment, and Nancy Bryan and Jerry Taylor Foundation. America is never as strong as she is when the imagination and vision of the private sector join forces with the enormous resources and the general mandates of the public one. When such things are allowed to happen, as evidence which you see all around you tonight, so does the magic. Thank you for this honor.
Give it up. Give it up for Sheila Johnson. Sheila, I see those diamonds. I got diamonds too, girl. Cubic zirconias. But seriously, I'm staying at the Salamander while I'm here. It's I believe one of the most beautiful hotels in the country. And Half Moon, she owns Half Moon down in Jamaica as well. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I almost became a dad a few times at Half Moon. It's I'm just telling you, it's something else. I also have a little bone to pick. I want to get this off my chest really quick. Table 6. I'm now officially rescinding my request to be a mentee of David Rubenstein. He's worth $3 billion and he's going after my job. His jokes are funnier than mine. Not happy about that. And as we think about Emily Haber and Sheila Johnson and what an honor it is and the extraordinary impact that they have and have made on the National Mall, we now have a very, very special musical tribute to tonight's History Heroes and Hope Award recipients. This performance honors both Sheila Johnson and Ambassador Haber in a very special and unique way. And something you may not know about Sheila Johnson, well, her training as a classical musician, but specifically a classical violinist at a very young age, inspired in part by her father's musical talent, she received a music scholarship to the College of the University of Illinois, where she was an accomplished member of the orchestra. And apparently, I did a little research. This is beyond the Wikipedia. Sheila Johnson was a cheerleader. See, you hot girl. All right. So we have a special musical violin performance tonight to honor Sheila Johnson's musical talents and accomplishments. The composer of the piece we're about to hear was selected by Ambassador Haber, a German composer, Kurt Weill, the German-Jewish immigrant who fled Nazi Germany to the United States, perhaps best known as the writer of the Three Penny Opera. The piece by Kurt Weill we will hear is called Ucali. Please welcome violinist Bruno Nasta to perform the piece. He teaches violin at the Duke Ellington School here in Washington. And leads the Jazz and Garden series. He has played with Gloria Estefan, Lucia Pavarotti, The Who, Denise Graves, and again here tonight. Please welcome Bruno. Amazing. Stand on your feet for Bruno Nasta. Thank you, Bruno. Before we close this evening out, I want to recognize one of America's greatest visual artists. He is one of the artists chosen for the Beyond Granite exhibit here on the mall that you read about as you came in. Please recognize and stand Derek Adams. There's Derek back there in the back. We can see that they really respect artists here by your seating. I actually own a Derek Adams work, and it's one of my most prized art pieces. Derek, you're phenomenal, and you're a national treasure. And ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Trust for the National Mall, thank you for joining us for the Ball for the Mall and for your generous support for the National Mall. This is an exciting time for the Trust as they continue to expand and develop new projects and programs on the National Mall with the National Park Service. Your support is more critical now than ever as plans are underway for the monumental celebration of America's 250th anniversary here on the National Mall. The Trust looks forward to seeing you next spring for the Ball for the Mall, May 2024, hosted by David Rubenstein. Watch for your announcements to save the date coming soon. Please join us for a dessert reception. To be sure to stop by the photo booth, the Humana Pickleball booth. Have you heard pickleball is coming to the National Mall October 6th through the 8th? And Sheila Johnson, I love horses too. I love horsepower. BMW, talk to me. And then you have to visit the lock keeper's house and the lock keeper himself on the way out while you wait for your car or ride share. Thank you for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your evening. See you next time for the Ball for the Mall.